Hi, it's Jack, and this is the podcast version of this episode. If you want to read the words as they're being analysed, then if you're on Spotify, you can become a subscriber of this channel or head over to the YouTube channel. And on both platforms, you can also sign up to get exclusive episodes and early access to the regular weekly episodes too. Following the murder of Madeline Soto, her mom's partner Stephan has been charged with the crime. It's also emerged that he had a very inappropriate relationship with Maddie in the house that they shared with the mom and other roommates. Now, how much did one of those roommates know about what was happening? That's what we're going to look into in this episode. I've got a quick question for you. How many people live in your home with you? How long did it take you to answer that question? Pretty quick, yeah? So why, when the roommate we're going to look at is asked this...
Okay, and was anybody staying at number 4?
So...
Is our answer nearly 4 minutes long. Welcome to Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. What I do here is different from anywhere else because I strip away everything apart from the words that are said. Then I use my process of statement investigation to give you the key to seeing deception, the truth, and the motivations of a person. It's a process I use with investigators, the media, and corporate clients to get a deep understanding of what is really being said. Now, this case is such a sad one. Madeline was killed in 2024. So many concerning stories about young Madeline's life inside the house. So we're going to look at our roommate, Nathalie, talking to the police. They're asking her questions about what it was that she knew. Was she as oblivious as she wants us to believe, or did she know that things were going on inside that house that shouldn't have been? And as always, this is not about finding someone to be a liar or telling them the truth. It's also, I want you to get something from this, something that you can use in your life to understand better what people are saying. Here, I want you to look for off-ramps. That's when someone is asked a question and instead of answering the question, they go off woof, take the off-ramp and go off and talk about something much more comfortable, but not answering the question they were asked. And also going extra, which is when you're asked a question, you can answer that question. You can say the words that answer that question, but then you talk about something else. Now, why would someone do that? Why would someone go extra? Because it's something that is important for them to say. And we can deduce from looking at when they go extra, the things that are important to them. So bear those things in mind as we listen to Nathalie, the roommate, deal with the questions from the police. Now the first thing we're going to listen to is the 4-minute answer. I'll split it into 2 bits, but just listen to a really simple question and a very complicated answer.
Okay, and was anybody staying at number 4?
So... once this lady moved out, they had it open for a good amount of time. And then, so within, I want to say the time that this lady moved out, at some point, Stephan moves in. And the reason why... So Stephan, for the last 5 to 7 years, I want to say, has been he was part of the furniture type shit. He was in the surroundings. Mm-hmm. So seeing him move in wasn't something that because at that point I had known about him and seen him, mm-hmm. It didn't seem like a big deal. I mind my business, right? Mm-hmm. I do my due diligence for me and my son. Mm-hmm. I can only ask that for the people around me. Mm-hmm. So in that situation, because he never came at me at all with anything, I didn't. I stayed in my business. I stayed in my little corner. He stayed downstairs. And then at some point they break up or they have some type of issue. He needs his space or whatever the fuck, he moves upstairs.
Okay.
So, and I want to say he lived upstairs for maybe 3 or 4 months. And then at some point he leaves. Once he leaves, I don't know what happens once he leaves. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's us halfway through the answer to that really simple question. Okay, and was anybody staying in number 4? Now, regulars will know this is a yes or no question, actually. Was anybody staying in number 4? Yes, there was. No, there wasn't. Okay, in real life, we're expecting something a little bit more. Yes, Stephan was in number 4, or Stephan was in number 4 for a few months, or Stephan did live there but moved out. I don't know what the truthful answer is, but that is all that is needed to be said. Instead, we're halfway through a 4-minute answer to this question. So it's all extra. What is going on? Let's decode it. Let's look at the answer. So, okay, and was anybody staying in number 4? And the first word from Nathalie is so. Now, when so starts an answer, red flag, it means you're not going to get a straightforward answer, the answer you were expecting, the answer you're looking for. That person with the word so is flagging up to you. I'm going to give you some sort of explanation or tell you a story. What I'm not going to do is directly take on your question. When someone starts with so, you're getting an explanation. So this is very much what we get. She says, so, once this lady moved out, they had it open for a good amount of time. And then, so within, I want to say the time that this lady moved out, at some point, Stephan moved in. Now, Stephan moved in is probably the answer to the question that we're looking for. Stephan was in that room. However, we have this huge bit of storytelling there. Once this lady moved out, they had to open it for a good amount of time. None of this is relevant to the question that is being asked, and none of this is helping Maddie either, if you think about the reason why this interview was going on. However, we just get deluged by all these facts. Why? Well, I think one of the reasons is that she is very nervous about the answer that she's going to give. This is an indication that we're going to move from talking about something safe and comfortable that she was talking about into talking about Stephan, which is obviously making her uncomfortable to talk about. So what she's doing is she's delaying getting to the meat of the question. She's delaying talking about Stephan here with all this filler about, she wasn't asked about who had moved out. It says someone's staying there. No, a lady moved out. I mean, it was open for a good amount of time. And I want to say the time this lady moved out, at some point Stephan moved in. Well, it's just so blindingly obvious that for Stephan to move in, someone must have moved out. Really, the answer's Stephan. That's all she needed to say. But I think she delayed there with waffle, word salad, whatever you want to call it, getting to there. You might have noticed in that answer, you might have heard the phrase, I want to say, a lot. She says, within, I want to say, the time this lady moved out, at some point, Stephan moved in. Now, Nathalie uses this phrase a lot. Is it a crutch? Well, is it something that's a little bit qualified? Is it that she's just using this as thinking words? So actually that says she's choosing her words very carefully. And this is what I want to say. I think that's what could be going on there with her, that she is picking her words carefully. It doesn't mean she's lying, but it does indicate that she is choosing her words very, very carefully. So the answer continues. Stephan moved in, and the reason why. So like Stephan for like the last 5 to 7 years, I want to say, has been like, he was part of the furniture type shit. So she's stopping and starting and stuttering all over the place here, starting thoughts. The reason why, and then she stops. She was going to tell us the reason why something, but then she's like, so like Stephan for the last 5 to 7 years. So she's jumping around thoughts here. I think this is just another sign that she is choosing her words very carefully here. She doesn't want to say the wrong thing. She wants to say the right thing, but that's not necessarily the right thing for the investigation. The right thing that the police want to hear is the right thing for her, because she's got this stress going on and she's picking her words very carefully. So that's a data point for you. This is causing her stress. We got to ask why, and I think that will become around as we look into more of the words. We have another one of those I want to says. So for like the last 5 to 7 years, I want to say, he's been like, he was part of the furniture type shit. So what she's trying to get across here is that this was very usual, very everyday that Stephan was around there. Why not just say that? Why go around this, to qualifying it with the amount of time, the 5 to 7 years, and he was part of the furniture type shit? Why? Look, let's come out and say, I think she wants to say this was nothing. Did I pay much attention to Stephan? No, I didn't pay much attention to Stephan. Now, that could be very interesting, because the question that the investigator wants to ask and the question that I want to ask is, did Nathalie know what was going on. And one of the reasons that she might be trying to make this all sort of casual, and I didn't pay much attention to him, the guy was just around, part of the furniture, could be because she's very sensitive, that she thinks, oh crap, and it's gone very, very bad. That's what I've got on that part there. It's storytelling and it's delaying. Then she continues again with this theme of casualness, like he was in the surroundings. Now, actually, that sounds bloody creepy. I cannot think of anyone that is in my home or any home I've lived in where I would say that this person was in the surroundings. Very strange. Like seeing him move in wasn't something like, because at that point I had known about him and seen him, like it didn't seem like a big deal. I mind my business, right? Like I do my due diligence for me and my son. A lot to unpack there. What I did notice, it's very hard for me to read it because it's not natural flowing words that come out there. So he was in the surroundings. Sounds creepy. So like seeing him move in wasn't something that like what? She doesn't finish that thought. She jumps onto another one. Something she's decided is better to say than what she was going to say. Because I had, I think she was going to say, but she stops. Boom. And then she says, at that point, I had known about him and seen him, like it didn't seem like a big deal. So we have this downplaying of Stephan again. There's no big deal. Part of the furniture, part of the surroundings. Yeah, I hardly noticed the guy. I didn't know him. She really wants to downplay the importance, the significance of Stephan there in the house. But she does say it didn't seem like a big deal, which means that although it didn't seem like a big deal, it was a big deal. I don't know what this big deal is. Is it a big deal that he moved in? Is it a big deal that he was always around there? Or is it an acknowledgement of the fact that he was there, and because he was there, because of what happened to Madeline, yeah, it was a big deal that he was there? Is that what is going on there? And then in which case, that word seem means to me that she potentially is leaking in there, that she had thoughts that this was significant, that this, in some way, maybe significant in that it wasn't right, maybe significant in that he was playing a large part in life. But yeah, I think there's an indication there, as much as she wants to play down everything by saying he was in the surroundings, it was no big deal, it was a bigger deal there. She says, I mind my own business, right? Like I do my due diligence for me and my son. Can't both be true. You cannot do your due diligence and mind your own business at the same time. You really can't do those things. I don't believe that those hang together. But once more, we've got I mind my own business, i.e., I didn't pay any attention. Don't come talking to me about any of this. I just, I mind my own business. So what I'm going to tell you is, no, I knew nothing because, hey, I'm a good person. I mind my own business. But then if you're doing your due diligence for you and your son who live in there, then you are not going to mind your own business. You're going to be asking questions about the people that are around. The two things don't really hang together for me. Nathalie continues and saying, I can only accept for the people around me. Well, Stephan was one of those people around you, but you're only accept for the people around me. It's as if you're trying to say again, he wasn't around me, he wasn't important. It's just massively downplaying the significance of Stephan and her experiences of Stephan. Why would she do that? Look, if it was true, you could say it so much more straightforward. Stephan lived in number 4, but I didn't really see him. He was around, but we didn't interact much, and I certainly didn't notice he was up to no good. That took me about 10 seconds to say. It's taken her 4 minutes, lots of stops, starts, and stutters. Why? I can only accept for the people around me. So in that situation, because he never came at me in at all with anything, I stayed in my business. So let's just deal with that bit at the end, which is I stayed in my business, which is once again saying, look, I don't know anything. And the reason I don't know anything is because I'm a good person. I'm not a nosy person. I mind my own business is what is going on there. But this, he never came at me in. You weren't asked, did he ever come at you? So why are you bringing up he came at me in? She doesn't finish the thought. She thinks saying something else, which is at all with anything, which is just means nothing, is better to say. But she was going to say he never came at me in something, which again suggests to me it's her mind leaking that she knew that Stephan could come at her with something, whatever that is. She carries on. I stayed in my little corner and he stayed downstairs. So we have this repetition of I stayed in my little corner, he stayed downstairs. So we have this thing going on again of her just, I was in my own little corner, and she's downplaying it. It's my little corner. That's where I stayed. I didn't experience any of the big things there. He stayed downstairs. Now, these things can't exactly be true. You know, that he didn't just stay downstairs. He must have gone upstairs at some point, just like she must have moved out of her little corner at some point. So that's kind of deceptive. Again, pointing out to me that, yeah, she, at this point in this answer, is the biggest priority to her is saying, oh, I didn't really know him. She says, and then at some point they break up, or they have something, some type of issue. He needs his space or whatever the fuck. He moves upstairs. We've got and then going on. Now, if you're a regular here, you'll know that I always say and then is a jump in time. And you have, when you see an and then, just go, what is being jumped over there? Now, in this case, I think instead of it being used to hide something, and then is being used for brevity, that he stayed downstairs, she was in her own little corner for a long amount of time, and then she doesn't want to talk about all the incidents or all the days, so there's a jump in time there with and then, but I don't think it's a suspicious one. She carries on. So I want to say he lived upstairs for maybe 3 or 4 months. So again, I think this is her choosing her words carefully. I want to say it's a bit of a filler, but it gives her time to think of the answer that she wants to give, which is 3 or 4 months. And then at some point he leaves. Another and then jump in time. Again, I just think it's for brevity. And then at some points he leaves. Once he leaves, I don't know what happens once he leaves, which is, again, it's just pushing this guy so far away. I don't know anything about this guy at all. He was a very peripheral figure, so far in the distance that it's not really worth mentioning. So this is halfway through that 4-minute answer into who lived at number 4. Which is just bizarre, but she's gone so extra. Now, so far, I've noticed that she doesn't answer the question simply. She goes extra. I think there is delaying there, which suggests that the subject of Stephan is causing her stress, as it would if she was innocent, because this is a very nasty thing to happen under her roof. But is that stress also, I feel bad about this because I could have done something about this, or I knew about this, or I could have raised this with someone. And this big story that she's putting on, all this extra stuff, is to show distance and casualness between her and Stephan, that it wasn't a big deal. And that's what the priority, that's why she's gone extra, is her priority is saying, hands way away from me this was. And I also want to know, does she mind her own business or not? I don't think she does mind her own business. I think she's so keen to tell us that she minds her own business that she's overly persuasive about that. So I do not think that she does mind her own business. I think she has a tendency to be aware of what is happening elsewhere. I'm not saying she's very nosy, but she wants us to believe she minds her own business. So she's got reasonable excuses when it's, did you notice this? Did you notice that? She can say, no. Now, listen, this episode is happening because lots of people asked me to look at this roommate. And if you'd like me to do more in this story, there are other roommates, there are other people involved, there are Stephan's parents as well that we could look at. Then do let me know. Let me know through stats. So if this episode gets enough plays, then I will think, yeah, that's a popular story, case to cover. Let's do some more of that. The more likes it gets indicates as well that this is something that I should be covering more, because there is real interest there. Or share it with people that you know are interested in this story. And when I see those stats and when I see the comments, then that makes me know that we should be doing more on this story. We left the answer halfway through. Let's hear some more from Nathalie.
Then you start seeing him come back around just to like visit. And again, I mind my business. I'm in and out. I see him like, yo, what's up? Jen, you good? We keep it moving. Like, that was just like the everyday life, right? Like, that was it. So once he starts, at some point, I guess, at some point I didn't even know he was here. Like, I had no idea. But that room ends up being used for him to be able to be there and help her if like she needed help with the dogs or something like that. Again, what I'm saying now is what pretty much, because I didn't understand why he was here. Like I didn't know he was here. So by the time I'm being told that Maddie is gone. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Who dropped her off at school? Stephan. Okay, well, what the fuck is Stephan here? Oh yeah, he stayed there overnight. I was like, what the fuck? But anyways, so like at some point, I guess because it was open, then that allowed him to be able to have somewhere to stay with, I guess, when he was trying to help Jen with the dogs, something like that. But the point is, within the time that I stayed there, he lived upstairs for like 4 months, and then he dipped out. At any point, if they used that for him to stay at some point, if I didn't see him downstairs, I didn't know, because I was just in and out. But from what I remember, he stayed there for 4 months, and then he left.
Wow. I mean, what an answer. And so many of the themes that we've seen before happening there. But there's some new things as well. So she mentioned that he left, and now she's talking about him coming back on the scene. But she doesn't talk about her experience there. She tells us about our experience. She says, then you start seeing him come back around just like to visit. And again, I mind my business. I'm in and out. So we have the talking about you, not quite what she experienced, and why is she not telling us what she experienced. And just to like visit is, again, it's just showing this casualness there. That this was not important to me. This was not important to me. And just in case you did think it was important to me, I'll tell you now. Again, I mind my own business. I'm in and out. And you'll notice that what she's saying when she's doing this, I mind my own business, she's not saying, I don't know what he was doing. I don't know what was going on because I mind my own business. She just says, I mind my own business, which is a phrase in the general. I mind my own business. That's just telling us about your attitude to life or one of your values or something like that. It's not telling us what she did in this specific circumstance. That she is not saying, I mind my own business, so therefore I didn't ask what was going on or whether he'd be around more often or what he was doing here. She doesn't specifically say that, but again, she just wants to show how casual this is. I see him like, yo, what's up, Jen, you good? We keep on moving. I don't know what that means and why that's there. But I think it's, again, about this casualness of like, I just went, yo, what's up, Jen, you good? And that's all we do. We walk past. That was just like the everyday, right? Again, she's telling us that this is just so damn normal. It's everyday life. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly what's happening here, but so many suspicious people, so many people who are guilty of something or have knowledge that they're hiding will tell us that things were very, very normal all the time. That's what I'm seeing here. She's telling us how normal, mundane this was. We don't notice normal and mundane. It's like background music when we're in a restaurant or something like that. You don't notice it. You're focused on your food. You're focusing on talking to people, but it's there. If suddenly they played your favourite song loud, you would notice it because it's an exception. But when it's just music that's playing there, you don't notice it. She carries on like, but that was it. Like, so once he starts at some point, I guess, at some point, I didn't even know he was here. So yeah, casualness just again, like I had no idea. And again, no idea is a red flag for deception. We always have ideas, or nearly always have ideas. So when someone says they have no idea, they're working hard, but deceptively, to tell you that they didn't know what was happening. So I had no idea. Really? You said hello to him, and you said, hello to Jen, and you knew he started coming back just to visit, but then you have no idea. But that room ends up being used for him to be able to be there. Real distance there. Just not he started using that room, but we got that word salad. But that room ends up being used for him to be able to be there. Nothing needs to be in there more than he starts using that room or he stayed in that room. To be able to is just distance and passive, and that is what she is trying to create here. And help her if she needed help with the dogs or something like that. I want to know what the something like that is, because she minds her own business. But all of a sudden, she seems to know what Stephan was doing there. He was giving Jen help with the dogs or something like that. So she is much more aware than she would like to let on. The words that she's choosing, the words she's stumbling over are all about, I mind my own business, it was everyday life and so on. But she leaks out that she has more information than she really wants to share. She knew he was there to help with the dogs or something like that. Again, what I'm saying now is what pretty much because I didn't understand why he was there. Well, you just told us he was there to help with the dogs and other things as well. I don't believe quite a lot of what she's saying here. It's not anywhere near as casual. She carries on. Like, I didn't know he was there. So by the time I'm being told that Maddie is gone, I'm like, well, how would who dropped her off at school? Stephan? Okay, well, what the fuck is Stephan here? Whoa. So what she's telling us here is that Maddie's gone missing, and her first question, in her words there, is about Stephan. She immediately and initially joined Maddie going missing to Stephan. Why? Why is that her first thought? And you'll see that I think she realizes that. As soon as I'm being told Maddie is gone, I'm like, well, how would he? And then she realizes, well, how would I know he was involved? So then she says, I asked the question, who dropped her off at school? Stephan? Okay, well, what the fuck is Stephan here? So, yeah, again, for all this, no, I was oblivious to everything that she is trying to give off, and I mind my own business. When Maddie goes missing, her first thought is, how would Stephan do this? That's what's there in the words. She then carries on, oh yeah, he stayed there overnight. I was like, what the fuck? But anyways, so like at some point, I guess because it was open, then that allowed him to be able to have somewhere to stay. So we have this distancing again. It's not that allowed him to have somewhere to stay. It's somewhere allowed him to be able to have somewhere to stay. So she's doing all this distance passive talking here. I guess when he was trying to help Jen with the dogs, something like that. So again, something like that. This is the help that he was giving Jen around the house in Nathalie's words. So for someone who minds her own business and just didn't really know what was going on and had no interaction, she's leaking that she had a lot more. She knew a lot more. Then she says, but the point is, and this is convincing language. This is her trying to say, forget everything that's happened there and pay attention to what I'm going to tell you. I'm flagging it up. The point is, we'll see that with manipulators. You'll probably know people in your own life who will do. The point is, and what that is like, forget everything. What you've just said is stupid. It doesn't matter because it's not the point. I'm going to tell you what the point is. And that's what she's doing here. She is going to tell us what the point is. This is really instructive because what she tells us the point is what she sees as the point, but that might not be what really is important in the grand scheme of things, but what is important to her. The point is, within the time I stayed here, he lived upstairs for like 4 months and then he dipped out. At any point, if they used that for him to stay at some point, if I didn't see him downstairs, I didn't know because I was just in and out. The point is that he stayed there for 4 months. That's the answer to the question, really. But then she has to go and get way extra by saying, didn't know. I was not aware of this. I wasn't aware of this. Her language tells me slightly different. But from what I remember, he stayed there for 4 months, for like 4 months, and then left. So what does all this part show? The second part of that answer, she is very sensitive. She wants to show us she barely knew Stephan existed. However, as we can see, it's not convincing because she knows why he was there. It was looking after the dogs and things like that. She knows he was there as well. And when she was told Maddie was missing, in her words, her first thought was, what's Stephan done? How did Stephan do it? But she doesn't convince me. Okay, so that's the one answer. We've taken nearly half an hour to analyse that 4-minute answer because there is so much packed in that. But I've got more from Nathalie for us to listen to now.
At any point, did you ever see Stephan alone with Maddie?
There was only one time where I had sent a message to Jen. I want to say I couldn't sleep. I was going to the gym and they were playing Atari. Like I heard them playing Atari, and the door was like partially closed. And I texted Jen. I was like, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay with this because, you know, I grew up in a very different household. Like my dad doesn't play, so that's just the way I was raised. So I sent her a message. I was like, hey, are you good with this? Like, are you okay with her being in his room?
So this is the room upstairs.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, those were around the time they were broken up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And what did Jen say?
I can pull it up, but I'm pretty sure it was thank you friend, you're good to that. Like I can pull it up if you want me to pull it in.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
But that's the only time where I questioned anything really, because again, the way I was raised, you know, we don't play that.
More red flags there. The police investigator says, so at any point did you ever see Stephan alone with Maddie? And the answer is, there was only one time where I had sent a message to Jen. It's a yes, no question for a start, and there is no yes or no in there. No, I didn't. Yes, I did. So this tells me that she wants to avoid the question once more and sort of dance around it a little bit. And this feels like a dance answer. At any point, did you ever see Stephan alone with Maggie? There was only one time where I had sent a message to Jen. What does that mean? Is that there was only one time that I saw Stephan with Maddie. She doesn't quite say that though, does she? She says there was only one time where I had sent a message to Jen. Is that mean there was only the one time and I sent a message to Jen? Or is it there was only one time I saw them together where I had to send a message to Jen? In other words, there were other instances and I didn't send a text to Jen. It's very open. She's not very direct and straight with this. She doesn't answer the question, and it's a qualified answer that we're getting here. And she goes on to talk about it, and she says, I want to say I couldn't sleep. I was going to the gym. You want to say you couldn't sleep? You were going to the gym? You were going to the gym. But none of this is important because the question is, did you see them together alone, or did you know they were together alone? And what we get here is, again, it's a story. It's a story about Nathalie's life. I couldn't sleep. I was going to the gym. Not important. What are you telling us this for? It's important for her to tell us this. Again, I think it's I stumbled across it because I couldn't sleep. I was going to the gym. And they were playing Atari. Like I heard them playing Atari. Now, that's interesting because, number one, that does almost sound like a euphemism, doesn't it? They were playing Atari. It's, maybe they were playing Atari, and that's what she heard. But look what she does, how she, again, qualifies it down. They were playing Atari. That's very certain. That's very definite that the two of them were playing Atari. They were playing Atari. And then she just turns it down a little bit. Like I heard them play Atari, i.e., I didn't see it happen. I just heard it happen. Again, I'm more distant from it. I didn't see it happen. I just heard it happen as I was passing, as on my way to the gym. And the door was partially closed. Now, this is interesting to me. Look, what was going on there was wrong in that house. The door being partially closed is less suspicious than if the door was fully closed, the door was locked or anything like that. It's why did she feel the need to do that? And she says, and I texted Jen, I was like, hey, I just want to make sure you're okay with this. She doesn't say okay with what, because it was playing games. So she doesn't say okay with what, is it playing games in the situation? Is it that she can hear other things? I don't know, but she doesn't say you're okay with this. She doesn't say what. And what she describes, look, I know it's not perfect. I know lots of people could argue with whether this is proper or improper, but in her words there's a computer game being played in a room that has a door partially closed or partially open. So it's a very weak description of noticing anything, but it doesn't make me feel that this is something that would immediately raise alarm bells. And why would that raise alarm bells? Come on to that in a minute. Can't sleep because it was late, would be my question I asked there. I want to say I couldn't sleep, so I was going to the gym. I do know that some people go to the gym in the middle of the night when they can't sleep. That's all absolutely fine. But why that need to tell us what she was doing? And if it's late, where's Jen? We'll ask that question a bit more later. She says, because, I grew up in a very different household. Like, my dad doesn't play, so that's the way I was raised. So I sent her a message. I was like, hey, are you good with this? Like, are you okay with her being in his room? Now we're getting a bit more there. We've got this sort of resume statement that my dad doesn't play games. So I find anyone playing a game with a parent figure suspicious. Not really. It's her being in his room, and she finally lets it out there. I was like, hey, are you good with this? Like, are you okay with her being in his room? She frames it though as a question. It's rather than a report. It's not, this is happening. It's just like, oh, are you okay with this? Again, it's very passive and downplaying. She doesn't report something that she thinks is really bad happening. It's a question. But she texts Jen. It's late at night and she can't sleep unless she does some weird shifts or something like that. So the fact she texts and she says, I text her is, or I sent her a message is, shows that there was some urgency there, that she felt that she couldn't just talk about it the next day. Hey, did you know this happened? She had to get there and then and do it, which suggests that she may have been aware of something a little bit worse than playing Atari in a room. And by the way, this was apparently, I think, late at night. Where was Jen that she needed to be texted and couldn't just talk to her, unless there's just a bit of laziness going on and they're texting from room to room. But who was looking after Maddie? Who was responsible for Maddie at that time? The police guy says, so this is the room upstairs. She says, around the time they'd broken up. And what did Jen say? I can pull it up, but I'm pretty, if it was your thank you, friend, you're good to that. Like, I can pull it if you want to. Word salad again. Just a kind of thank you or something like that. Or let me check and I can show you. And then she says, but that's the only time where I questioned anything, really. Because again, the way I was raised, we don't play that. More word salad. It's hard for me to read. I'm sure it's hard for you to understand. But she says, but. So when someone says but, it signals that something more important than what's come before is going to be said next. But that's the only time where I questioned anything. Now you'll look. This is once again really qualified. It's not the only time I noticed anything suspicious, observed anything suspicious, was dead worried about what was happening. None of those things. It's just the only time where I questioned anything. And that was a question that she sent by text or by message to Jen. That doesn't mean that she didn't notice, observe, or experience anything else. Just that's the only time she questioned it. And then she says, really? Which negates everything. If it's either the only time or it's sort of the only time, really the only time, in which case it's not the only time. So again, this just says to me, look, from everything I'm seeing from her, she had suspicions or worse, knew that something wrong was going on in that house between those people. This answer, at the very least, she has more concerns than she's talking about and very possibly more knowledge. Coming up, Nathalie is asked directly how much she knew about what was happening between Stephan and Maddie. The answer will interest you a lot. Do you ever feel like you're not being told the full story? Just like I do here with Nathalie. You're right. It's happening to us all the time. I'm here to giving you the key to seeing deeper into someone's words. It's about hearing the world with new ears, and I'm on a mission to share this with as many people as possible. So if you want to unlock that secret, subscribe, follow, join in the movement, delve into the archives, a treasure trove of cases waiting to be explored. And do you know someone who needs this, someone who deserves to hear the truth? Then hit the like button. That helps us get to more people. Share this, recommend it, pass this information on. Listen, every single click, every single share fuels the fire. It enables me to dig deeper, to analyze further, and bring this life-changing skill to even more people. I regularly hear from grateful audience members who've navigated tricky life situations using the listening skills they developed on this channel. You could pass that on to someone with a like, with a share, or a recommendation. It's a hell of a gift to give. Let's get back now and listen to that very sensitive question.
Now getting to the more difficult questions. It's always out on the news and stuff like that Stephan may have. Okay. What do you know about that? And here's where I want you to, as tough as it may be very detailed and truthful for me.
I never would have thought that. Like, I have my own trust issues, right, because of my own experiences, and you think that you have like a good power of discernment and trying to like spot this shit out. I never thought that anything would be inappropriate. Like, if I ever saw him do anything, was just be like a fatherly figure in a way to her. It was deeply upsetting to think that. And like I said, I have my own reservations. I don't bring people around my son like that for my own reasons. I only trust that my friends do their due diligence with the people that bring around their kids, because obviously it affects us. But I would have never thought about like him really doing stuff with her like that. Like, I don't know, like, I never, thinking about it, like, it just makes me feel stupid.
So the question is put to her very straightforwardly. Now getting on to more difficult questions. It's obviously on the news and stuff like that Stephan may have, and that's been taken out of the audio, what the actual allegation is. What do you know about that? She's asked. And she is silent for a long, long time. The answer, nothing, everything, never suspected a thing. Whatever valid answers could come from her mouth, and reassuring answers could come from her mouth, don't come. She is silent. She avoids answering that question. So the police guy gives her a prod. And he says, here's where I want you to be, as tough as it may be very detailed and truthful for me. And she starts talking. And she starts talking with a stutter on the I. She says, I never would have thought like that. I have my own trust issues, right? Let's just deal with all of that straight away. She stutters on the I. She's very nervous about that. Often when we stutter on I, it's because we're very nervous and very stressed about joining ourselves through the word I, which is a very important word to us. She's stressed about putting the word I with this denial because we own what we say when we say I. And she's brain may be thinking, do I really want to commit to this? Do I really want to say I never knew anything about this? Which is why we get the I never. Now, never is a red flag for deception word. Very rarely do we never do something. It's just not a word. It's one of those absolute words. It really means not at any time. We don't use it like that. I'm not saying when someone says they never did something, they're lying. What I am saying is if someone uses the word never, and Nathalie uses the word never a lot in this answer, we should dig in deeper and go, is this really true? Or are they using the word never to appear absolute when really the reality might be a little different? And she says never twice. I never would have thought like that. Now, she's being asked in the present time, what do you know right now? And her answer is in the past tense. I never would have thought that. Never would have thought that. Is that because now she knows it's all fallen together? Or really is she just making this up? And I never would have thought that is just the words that she uses there, but it doesn't quite work like that. And then if you look, the question was asked, what did you know about it? And she tells us what she thought about it. I never would have thought that. So she's not directly answering the question. Then she goes on to do what I think is put up a bit of a victim shield. Don't give me a hard time. Don't expect me to have acted entirely logically, sanely or whatever, because I have my own trust issues, right? Logically, if you got trust issues, then maybe this is not the kind of guy you would have been giving trust to. But she, I think, is deploying what I call the victim shield, which is don't defense. Don't come anywhere near me. I have my own trust issues, right, because of my own experiences. And you think that you have like a good power of discernment and trying to like spot this shit out. And again, she's not talking about herself. She's talking about you. And you think that you have like a good power of discernment and trying to like spot this shit out. Then she uses never again. I never thought that anything would be inappropriate. Now, this is again talking in absolutes. I never thought that anything would be inappropriate. Well, that's not specific. That is not specific about the question you're asked, which is about Stephan. And did you know what Stephan was doing? And it's just this. I never thought that anything would be inappropriate. Not about him. Not, I didn't think that Stephan was doing anything inappropriate. No, it's, I never thought that anything would be inappropriate. She's trying too hard to persuade us here for me to believe this answer. Like, if I ever saw him do anything, it was just be a fatherly figure in a way to her. So she says, if I ever saw him do anything, it was just be like a fatherly figure in a way to her. So that doesn't match up. One is about doing and one is about being. So again, I'm getting, is this constructed here? Is this her just really wanting to get across the point of, I didn't know anything, I didn't suspect anything, don't come giving me a hard time for anything. And then it's just be a fatherly figure in a way to her. So in a way is not being a fatherly figure. It's kind of like a fatherly figure, or maybe you could describe it as a fatherly figure if you bent some definitions and twisted some rules or so on, but it's not straight and direct. It is deeply upsetting to think that, she says. The victim shield comes back. And like I said, I have my own reservations. Like I said, is repeating. Please, please, please. I'm flagging up. I'm repeating this. Make sure you get it. Make sure that this sinks in. I often say, like I said, is a hallmark of deceptors. I don't think that's what's going on here. I think it is. This is very important to me. So I'm going to flag up. I've said it before to make sure that you listen. I have my own reservations. Now, this was interesting. I think I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt on this one. I don't think this means reservations about Stephan, but it could, because she doesn't say what those reservations are directly. But I think this is just her own reservations about people in general. She says, I don't bring people around my son like that for my own reasons. I only trust that by the way, you'll notice she's not expanding on her own reasons here at all. These are hidden reasons. She doesn't want to tell us what they are. I only trust that my friends do their due diligence with the people that bring around their kids, because obviously it affects us. So we've got this concept of due diligence again. Now, remember earlier, she said she did her own due diligence, but now it's her friends. She trusts her friends to do the due diligence. I said I thought that was a lot of nonsense at the time, and she's contradicted herself now on it. So I do think it is absolute nonsense. Then there's more nevers. But I would have never thought about like him really doing stuff with her like that. Like, I don't know, like thinking about it, it just makes me feel stupid. So we have these nevers again, this need to persuade us that not once did he think about doing stuff like that. But she's told us already that there was this Atari incident where she was so concerned about it that she texted Jen right there and then to say, is this right? Are you happy with this? But here she's going, I never would have thought. So she's contradicting herself there. She talks about thought again. It's not knowing, she's talking about what she thought there. And then about him really doing stuff like that with her. Not just doing stuff like that, but really doing stuff like that. Certainly, I think that says she had suspicions. Is something going on? Maybe not. Is it really happening? I think that's what's coming out there in her words. So the answer to that, look, she takes a long time to answer. That silence is frightening to me, that silence. She doesn't directly answer. She's asked what she knows, and she goes into this word salad about other experiences she's had, what she thought or didn't think. Slight victim playing there as well, of don't come and attacking me because I have my own issues. And she's really not solid in her recall of the facts. Let's listen to some more from there, where the detective tells her, don't feel stupid, which is the last thing she said.
You can't blame yourself, though.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, I wish I would have fucking saw or something. I would have just paid more attention or something.
At any point did Jennifer tell you that she may have known?
No. I mean, I'm very vocal, on the way I feel about stuff. And I'm thinking about our kids, man. No.
So there we have the answer to the question continued there. She is told, you can't feel sorry for yourself. She says, I'm sorry. That's okay. She says, no. And she stutters an I again. No, I wish I would have fucking like saw or something. It's not very coherent. It's not very together there. I would have paid more attention or something. It's just all these somethings. Only she did see something. Because she talked to us about this, or she experienced something. She talked to us about this Atari story earlier on, where she said she did suspect something. She thought something wasn't quite right, so she texted Jen. So you did experience something. But then what would she have done? She would have paid more attention or something. Paid more attention? Not alerted the mom, alerted authorities, got that girl out of there, or got her some help pretty damn quick. Just paid more attention. That gives me the sense that potentially she really did suspect something, but put it to the back of her mind. Maybe she didn't like confrontation. Maybe she didn't want confrontation, but paid more attention or something. She's then asked, at any point, did Jennifer tell you? She may have known, and again, it's quite in doubt as to what it was there. She says, no. Now, that's an interesting one. No's quite a revealing, truthful answer. It's a yes-no question. Did Jennifer tell you? Yes, she did. No, she didn't. No. Quite fine. Double no is maybe a bit of a need to persuade us that there is no. But then she goes on and talks about herself. So the question is about Jennifer. Did Jennifer tell you? And then she says, I mean, I'm very vocal on like the way I feel about stuff. And I'm talking about our kids, man. No. Listen, that answer there does not sit well with the Atari story. And again, I think that she has this need to defend herself there. So when she's asked about Jennifer, she goes on to talk about what a great person she is, because I'm normally very vocal about things. Okay, next, the detective is going to ask a question. And the reason he's been asking Nathalie some of these questions is he's received a tip that she's been telling people she knew everything that was going on. So given everything we've noticed all the way through this episode, listen to Nathalie's answer. What do you spot in her response to this question?
Okay, and the reason I ask is somebody called it, as you can imagine, this is a very high-profile case. Okay, there's people reaching out from all over the country, whatever it may be, but somebody called in a tip to me saying that you may have told somebody that you knew what was going on. Okay. Promise.
This guy looked at me in my face, knowing everything that he did to Maddie. Mm-hmm. And he looked at me like if he had no idea. Like, this guy is a fucking monster, and I'll never forget that.
What do you mean he looked you in the face? When?
So we were trying to figure out what happened with Maddie. And like, I'm very I internalize a lot. So I'm sitting on the thing, on the stairs, and I'm just like, I'm in like a daze, because like it doesn't feel real. Like it's just none of this is normal. And like I stand up, I had to wake up early the next day because I had an appointment in Osceola County. So it was Monday night. Once everything starts like Maddie's lost. And I stand up and I told Jen, like, just let me know how I can help tomorrow once I'm done with the meeting. Like, we'll pass out flyers. Like, we'll do everything we can to try to help him find her. And this man, like he looks at me in my eyes and tells me, like, are you okay? And I'm like, look at him. And I'm like, no, like.
So, did you notice it there? She's asked, somebody called in a tip to me saying that you may have told somebody that you knew what was going on. She says, So she does deny it. It's not very strong denial there. He says, okay, promise. And she goes on the biggest off-ramp ever. She takes it very, very harshly. It's not like a subtle little, I'm going to go off and talk about this. She decides to talk about something entirely different when it was put to her that the tip was called in to say you told somebody that you knew what was going on. We get this big off-ramp, and where she says, this guy looked at me in the face, knowing everything that he did to Maddie. It's just such a big off-ramp. And he looked at me like he had no idea, like this guy's a fucking monster, and I'll never forget that. There is anger and revulsion in this story, but it's in the wrong place. It's not for what he did to Maddie. It's anger for how he looked at her. He looked at me like he had no idea. What do you mean he looked at you in the face? When? And then she goes into present tense. Listen to this answer. So that's past tense. Then it goes into the present tense. So we were trying to figure out what happened with Maddie. And I internalize a lot. So I'm sitting on the thing on the stairs. So we're now in present tense. And I'm just like, I'm like in a daze because it doesn't feel real. Like none of this is normal. It's all present tense. And like I stand up, present tense. I had to wake up early in the day because I had an appointment in Circular County. So it was Monday night. What? This is just word salad, and I think I had an appointment, I've got a job, or, I needed to be somewhere, so it was Monday night. It's just, boom, mind-blowing, but it's so far away from someone called in and said, everything that's happening. She has gone on a trip down there, and once everything starts, like Maddie's lost, I just stand up, and I told Jen, just let me know how I can help tomorrow. Once I'm done with the meeting, we'll pass out flyers, we'll do everything we can to help her. And this man, he looks at me in the eyes and he tells me, are you okay? And I'm like, look at him, and we'll do everything we can, but I won't cancel my appointment, and I'll pass out some flyers. I won't actually go looking for her. This all feels to me like, look at what a good person I am. The present tense suggests this might not actually have happened, that this is being made up in the real time as she's talking the conversation here. Look, what a great person I am. But she has directly diverted from the accusation that she's told someone she knew what was going on there. It is a huge, huge, huge off-ramp. So was the tip correct? Because apart from that, she does not take on that at all. So there's Nathalie, the roommate. Did she know what was going on in the house? That is the big question that I wanted to get from looking at this. Look, it's all about distraction here. She is so much into the distraction, talking about something other than the hard questions that she is asked. She makes it look like she hardly knew Stephan existed. However, her words leak out that she, at the very least, had concerns. Urgent concerns, because she had to get on the text message, and at the very least she had an idea about what was happening. Those are in her words. Now, she might not have known the full extent of what was happening, but she knew a lot more. In my opinion, from looking at her words, she knew a lot more than she was saying there. She wanted to give the impression, I hardly even knew the guy existed. I do not believe that from looking at her words. Now, what do you think? You can let me know in the comments if you can, or you can get in touch on the socials. You'll find all the details for them at neveratruerword.com. There, you'll also find a whole load more videos or podcasts, if that's your thing, delving into cases just like this and understanding the truth, the deception, and the motivations of someone by analysing their words. You can also sign up for the monthly newsletter there as well. It's neveratruerword.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.